Before we begin the show tonight, an apology. Last week on the show we made a joke about Michael Rowland using a canned laughter machine to rehearse for News Breakfast. That wasn't true. It was just a joke about how we don't have a studio audience anymore. Michael was fine with it, but a lot of people thought we were having a go at him and got offended on his behalf. And I just want to make it very clear that Michael and I are good friends and he has a great sense of humour about these sorts of things.
Hey, Micallef, you watch your damn mouth.
You get back to your own studio, Rowland. That guy has no idea about social distancing. Welcome back. Well, it's been another hell of a week, hasn't it? And as difficult a time as this is, we all need to listen to our Prime Minister, Daniel Andrews and Gladys Berejiklian. I beg your pardon, Scott Morrison, and follow his advice.
We all need to keep going. I need all of you to keep going.
Not to the beach, though. That's not helping. But together, apart, we can get through this. And for those Australians stuck overseas and unable to get a flight home,
the Department of Affairs and Foreign and Trade and the Foreign Minister are bringing forward some matters for consideration by the National Security Committee.
And for those who are unaware, the Department of Affairs and Foreign Trade was formerly the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. So DFAT has now become DAFT. It's much easier to say, though possibly not so reassuring a change for those stranded overseas. But for those of you at home and watching the show tonight, we want to, as much as possible, be positive and not as miserable as the other so-called real news services. The thing is, there's been a lot of good news this week. The May budget won't be coming out to the end of the year, which is a bit of a pity because now it's going to clash with the new James Bond film. Apparently the Bond film had a much bigger budget than we're going to have. Still, I'm sure that whatever money is available for the 2020-21 budget, it'll be right up there on the screen, paying for coalition advertising, telling us how good they are compared with Labor. I'm looking forward to it. Good news also for xenophobes as we close our borders to the rest of the world. And there's no sugarcoating this. There's none left on the shelves. Like enjoying listening to Dan Tehan speak.
This is a once-in-a-100-year type event.
And it's going to be disruptive.
Whatever we do, we've got to do for at least 6 months.
Wow. I mean, I was planning to tidy up the shed. I think I could pad it out to a week, but beyond that. And while we're all being encouraged to be more compassionate towards each other, it is hard when you're forced to live under the jackboot of a tyrannical despot imposing his dystopian and loveless ideology on us.
No more handshaking. No more hugging.
ABC viewers will, however, be relieved to know that it's still safe to hug trees. The thing is that we're all in this together. Even the Queen, whose authority as our monarch descends by divine right from God himself, is not immune and has had to, like many of us, self-isolate. And it's worse for her because she's had to do it in Windsor Castle. Can you imagine being cooped up in that place all by yourself? But they are looking after Her Majesty, and that's a good thing. Now, the ABC is a bit like the royal family in that we are a bloated anachronism feeding off the public purse. And I've got to say, we're being looked after too. I don't get to work from home like Her Majesty, Lee Sales, but management have installed a sink for me to wash up in. It's the only one in the building that works, so I feel pretty special. Good news also for students with schools closed except for New South Wales, where they'll remain open providing they continue with the social distancing measures introduced last week and cancel events such as school assemblies. Although there was apparently an exemption for Scots College, who won this year's Head of the River Regatta. One student's mother said she didn't have a problem with the outlawed gathering, saying it's in God's hands. And if that's the case, let's hope he's washed them thoroughly. Now, later on, I speak to Father Beamish about the clampdown on non-essential gatherings, the Catholic Archdiocese of Sydney, as early as last week, telling churches to cancel services if they believe. I guess because otherwise it'd just be preaching to the converted, wouldn't it?
I think the newspaper quote went on to say churches were to cancel services if they believe more than 100 people may attend.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, that makes much more sense.
But of course, as anticipated by the Catholic Church in Victoria and Tasmania, we've now had to suspend all services in the wake of the coronavirus restrictions.
Well, good on them, because in the past they would have just moved the virus onto another parish, wouldn't they?
Well, it hasn't been easy, Shaun. Even though we're closed now, we're still offering home delivery of our services. And one of the difficult things for us to adapt to was this.
There are new precautions at church. Holy water replaced with hand sanitizer.
Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to perform an exorcism by flinging hand sanitizer at someone who's possessed, but it's very difficult. Yeah. The nozzle doesn't lend itself to flinging. You have to pump it out in your hand and then rub it on them, which is problematic if the bed that they're strapped to is levitating or spinning.
Anyway, that's later on. We're not going to talk about that now. Yeah. And also coming up later, with reports that the virus is more like September 11 than SARS, we ask how much longer until we invade Iraq to deal with it. Also, we look at the restrictions in aged care, with visits to be kept short. And Max apparently only allowed 2 visitors per day. So sorry about that, Max, but I guess it's to stop those morons out there panic visiting. But it's panic buying and worse, hoarding that has really annoyed Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton. Now, look, I know Peter's back at work and we're allowed to make fun of him again, but I don't think he looks anything like the Silver Age Lex Luthor. No, my mistake. Anyway, to those who are hoarding, Peter issued this warning.
I'm going to come after those people, and it might be a pretty experienced.
Well, that goes without saying. Our panic buying reporter Lois Price is up in the Mad As helicopter. Lois, people stripping supermarket shelves like locusts and hoarding hundreds of items at home. I hope you're not one of them.
No, Shaun, my flat was too small.
Right.
Hence why I've moved into a Woolworths distribution centre. I'm surrounded by the stuff.
Can you explain the rush on toilet paper? It's not the worst thing in the world to run out of, is it? I mean, you could use a bunch of leaves if you have to, can't you?
Yeah, you sure can, Shaun, and that's why I've got 120 garden tidy bags full of leaves stashed in storage.
But why toilet paper, Lois? I mean, the virus is not even gastrointestinal, is it? It attacks the respiratory system, nose, lungs and mouth.
Yeah, but a lot of us are talking out our arse these days, Shaun. Carpets reeking of your pet's urine, full of your own dead skin, stained with blood from a recent brawl. Colin Einstein's filthy carpet solutions can have your carpets looking like they're 6 years old again. You provide all the cleaning equipment and chemicals and Colin will do the rest. It's that easy for him. Plus, all this month there's 1% off for rodeo clowns. But hurry, we could all die soon. I'm Lois Price for Mad As Hell.
Thanks, Lois. Well, Department of Home Affairs Social Club Secretary Brian Pegmatite. Peter Dutton's been off self-isolating for the last couple of weeks, have you?
Yes, self-isolating and self-loathing.
Now, what about Scott Morrison?
He's been self-aggrandising and self-mythologising.
Yeah, but I mean, you agree with him, don't you?
No.
No, that panic buying is un-Australian.
Yes.
And it's atypical of other nationalities as well, don't you think?
Yes, it's un-Belgian, it's un-Egyptian, it's un-Cuban, un-Ivory Coastal, un-Bosnia and Herzegovinian.
What country would you say panic buying is typical of?
Oh, probably the Holy See. They're all a bit twitchy over there.
Now, the Prime Minister's been much stronger, though, hasn't he, this week? It must be good to see him hitting his straps like this.
Oh, yes. It's very enjoyable to see someone finally do what they're supposed to after the shambolic fiasco of the last few utterly disastrous months that we still might not recover from at the ballot box. It's really beaut.
Brian Pegmatite, I thank you.
Pleasure. Me. Someone.
Well, hopefully this will cheer you up, Brian. Please accept on behalf of Mad As Hell and courtesy of Coles, this panic buy little shop featuring adorable miniature empty shelves with a single can of miniature Saveloys. Hurry now before they're gone. Well, OK, who feels like a Bill Zinger? Everybody, that's great. OK, this one is about Government Services Minister Stuart Robert, whose MyGov website crashed when all the people rendered jobless by the government's announcement that non-essential businesses be closed wanted to sign up for unemployment benefits online because the government had banned large non-essential gatherings like queues, which they were then forced to form outside Centrelink because the MyGovernment site had crashed. Anyway, here's Bill.
I mean, it shouldn't be the people of Australia in the Centrelink queue, it should be Stuart Robert in the Centrelink queue.
Yeah, boom, baby! Mic drop moment, shorten out.
The blubber on these creatures is almost 30 centimetres thick, and should they end up on a beach, their size and weight will often be the subject of taunts and mean comments by onlookers.
Shaun Micallef's The Cruel Fat Shaming of Whales, 9:37 Sunday.
Industrial accidents can really fuck you around. Fortunately, my life partner Alpha read online once about a treatment for severe retinal damage.
That's enough ammonia for you today. Any more and you could get the bends.
My biorhythms are all over the shop. Have we got any St. John's wort?
Sorry, I used the last of it to make a garland to wear to Cindy and Jemima's wedding on Thursday. Sorry.
And so I'm off to an appointment with my shaman, a self-trained therapologist who knows more about the human body than you can shake a stick at, which is also one of her specialities. So what happened was I was riding along and then it sort of stuck and I couldn't get it going. Thank you very much, thank you. Now, I've got some money for you. Look, there you go. Great.
Are you allergic to any rashes, skin reactions?
All of them.
Well, that's nothing to be sneezed at. Do you think you could keep it down to a dull fucking roar? Some of us are trying to do pet kinesiology in here!
Looks like someone got up on the wrong side of the crystal light bed.
But seriously, take your pants off.
My unbulk billable session with Zinni, who can't be named because of a pending legal action, goes well, and pretty soon I feel much better than if I would had I eaten a quinoa muffin. But alternative medicine, like neurosurgery, is not an exact science. And I am given some supplementary herbs and a prescription to sell them to some bloke in Thailand. Then it's off to back home once more again to unpack what I have learned, despite the fact that the audience has already had to sit through it at least once. Next week, Alpha looks at the arguments against and not in favour of vaccinating your feral cats. Homeopathy Professor Anne examines the life-giving properties of hemlock, and rolfing expert Commodore Mark Pules has an RDO. I'm pretty sure you're not meant to do this with cats.
Welcome back, and with a brief glance at what our contestants will be up against in the final round, here's Stephen.
That's exactly right, Shaun. And our carry-overnight luggage champions are Gondola and the man whose internal organs she's harvesting for the Lust Atoll Cannibal Banquet tonight, Jeremy.
We've got some great ideas lined up, Stephen. We're making a flan out of Jeremy's lungs, and for pudding, a pancreas souffle.
That sounds more savoury than sweet.
That's okay for me. Jeremy's a diabetic.
Shaun?
Thank you, Stephen. Time now, though, to do something we wouldn't recommend you try at home, and that's look at the headlines from the Daily Telegraph. Well, editor in name only of the Telly, Chris Lorax, joins us. And Chris, it's been a busy few weeks, hasn't it? Lots of issues, obviously, like the coronavirus.
Oh, yeah.
And here's a very early one. Flying kangaroo flu.
Yeah, about the evacuation, which was on a Qantas plane. So it was going to be either the Spirit of Oz respiratory failure or that one. So we went with that one because it used less ink.
But the one I really wanted to talk about was this one.
Oh, yes, yeah, Family Day Scare. That's a play on the words of Family Day Care, which is a thing. And scare because it was expensive or something. I didn't actually read the article.
No, I actually meant this headline over here on the side. Libs still chook up by brawl.
Oh, yes. Some Liberals had a fight in the car park of a chicken shop, so we changed shook up because they were in shock maybe afterwards to chook because it's slang for chicken.
Right, and you go into more detail here with Libs still running afoul after chicken shop fight. Running afoul of what?
Oh, that's a pun on the word fowl, which is spelt differently, and fowl as in a chicken.
Yeah, I get that. But did you mean running afoul of the law? Why didn't you complete the sentence? Doesn't make any sense, does it?
Just a bit of fun.
Well, here's one that might also require some further explanation as well. A trucking big green problem.
A fucking big green problem. We added the R and changed the first letter from an F. As in fuck.
The baboon escape a couple of weeks back kept you busy?
Oh, yes, we love this one.
Oh, yes, you did. So much so that on the front page of this edition, you teased an exclusive column written by one of the baboons.
Oh, it's a bit of dramatic licence there, Shaun. It was actually by the baboon as told to Tim Blair.
Why not the other way around? Would have been better written. And finally, Knife and Death, a story in which a man who stabbed a tourist was shot dead by police.
Yeah, it's a pun on life and death.
That man is dead.
Just a bit of fun.
Well, some good news for those who were disappointed that the AFP dropped its investigation into Angus Taylor's allegedly forged travel expenses document. The Commonwealth Ombudsman will investigate the AFP's failure to investigate, which is good because justice must be seen to be done. Although it might be hard to make out that justice because the Ombudsman investigates in private and has no authority to overrule the AFP's investigation or compel the AFP to do anything specific. Spokeswoman for the Ombudsman, Lenora Spanks, if the Ombudsman can't do anything and does it secretly anyway, what's the point?
Well, if a tree falls in the forest, does anyone hear it? And was it because of allegedly illegal land clearing operations by Angus Taylor's brother's company? These are questions we cannot ever really know the answer to, Shaun.
All right, so the Om in Ombudsman is a sacred sound signifying the essence of the ultimate reality of consciousness.
Exactly. We in the department accept that there are some things that are beyond human understanding. Yes, we will investigate the AFP, but that is not the path to true knowledge, which can only come through questioning of the self.
But not Angus Taylor himself.
To seek is to suffer. To seek answers from Angus, doubly so. Remember the monk who came to Joshu, who asked, all dharmas are reduced to oneness, but what is oneness reduced to? Joshu said, look, 2 police forces had a look at this. That's about as independent as you can get. The matter is finalised, full stop.
Namaste, stay there a minute, will you?
Excuse me, Shaun?
Yes, question from you, sir.
Me?
Yes.
I just want to point out that all this panic buying of toilet rolls that will just get put in the shed and forgotten about is actually a significant carbon sequestration, which may slow global warming. In fact, the reduction in air travel, non-burning of fossil fuels due to people not leaving the home, and general slowdown in consumption and production will probably mean that we meet our Paris targets without having to use our Kyoto carbon credits.
What's your point?
Well, I just think that we owe coronavirus an apology.
Still to come. Now is not the time for 3-word slogans.
Slowing the spread. You free up the bed.
When 8-word slogans are far more catchy. And could the AFL and NRL seasons continue if we eliminate body contact, make sure everyone stands well away from each other on the oval and constantly rub the ball clean? Of course, then it'd be cricket, but if that's what it takes for the game to survive, then I think we should do it. Meanwhile, Australia's military has been put to work making surgical masks to make up for the global shortfall. How is that working out? Vice-Rear Captain Boy Bobo Gargle.
Surgical masks? Oh, great Neptune's penis. First the submarines and then this. The French are right. We are hopeless at making things.
Well, can I ask you then about what else our military is doing to help out? The US, of course, are converting enormous warship hospitals like these into civilian hospital ships. So are we thinking of doing anything like that?
Well, regrettably, Shaun, we don't have anything that big or hospital-y. We could, I suppose, press into service some of the old deserviced frigates we use for target practice. That'd be no trouble at all. Wouldn't even have to suspend the shelling, as we're not very good shots and usually miss anyway. And if not, well, we'd hit that old coronavirus right where it hurts, eh?
And what health and safety measures would you have on board for the crew and medical officers, given they'd be exposed to the virus for so long?
Well, we'd do our best, obviously, to look after them. If necessary, we'd let them off somewhere safe and secure and where the Australian Border Force wouldn't notice.
Sydney Harbour?
Exactly. We'd let them off without any checks to wander around in a major capital city as they wish. And if they start feeling a little peaky, then they can come back on board and be admitted as patients.
And if they get better?
Well, Then we release the patients!
Is it Hamish MacDonald?
No, David Spears this week.
Oh, right. He's not very good, is he?
Barbara Streisand.
Look! Sorry, wa monster no odes.
Oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Mickey. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Mickey. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you're so fine, you blow my mind.
Well, still to come later in the week.
Repeated strafing by machine gun and heavy artillery bombardment using the very latest munitions is sadly to no avail, as the elusive Finch they've been attempting to murder proves more than a match for them.
That's Shaun Micallef's Rare and Endangered Birds of Southern Armenia. Coming soon.
What do you think? You're the coroner?
I do it for a living. Unlike this poor fellow here who doesn't now do anything for a living. Because he's dead.
I know he's dead, Schlafenjuge. I'm a coroner too.
The question is why?
Why is he dead?
Exactly. That's the question we're here to find out the answer to.
Vital signs? Virtually non-existent.
What do you make of those ligature marks?
These signs that a thing was used for binding or tying something tightly.
Exactly. Around his neck.
You don't think he died of natural causes?
She.
You think he was killed by person or persons unknown?
Or known.
You mean he knew the killer?
Perhaps. We can't rule out anything at this stage. Or in.
Anything could have happened.
Or not. That's what we're here to find out. Fortunately, we're coroners.
Both of us.
That's what it says on my shingle.
Thank you, Professor Acadian.
Homicide is a serious accusation. You'd better be prepared to back it up in a court of law.
Those ligature marks don't occur by accident. It takes pressure.
He's right, Zimmy.
You two seem to be as thick as thieves, like peas in a pod. The DNA isn't going to like this. He likes things neat, no loose ends. Everything tied up with a pretty bow.
Tell him we're coroners. Those ligature marks on your husband's neck, were they his?
I don't know what you mean.
La, 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 la. Accidents don't just happen, Mrs. Grimaldi. Someone had to plan them within an inch of his life.
Your husband's life.
Keith and I hadn't been married for years. Not spiritually, anyway. We lived separate lives. What he did on his own time was his own business. I never asked questions. I never knew why.
You can't expect answers if you don't ask any questions.
You're hiding something.
Perhaps you're not looking in the right place.
You can't get close to Schlaffensweger. He's got a blind spot a mile wide.
I can get around that if you show me the way.
I don't have a map, Stephanie. I'm not a cartographer, and neither are you.
No. I'm a coroner.
So am I.
I know. You're both coroners.
Schlaffensweg starts Sunday. Not sure which one. On ABC, and I missed it.
Welcome back. Well, in these troubled times, we need a hero more than ever. Right now would be great, obviously, or in a few weeks at the latest. But even the heroes of yesteryear can bring us comfort. Zach Frisby.
I'm walking here on the beaches of the Gallipoli Peninsula. It's pleasant today, but 105 years ago, less so. The Anzac legend of Simpson and his donkey is well known, but what's perhaps less well known is the failed attempt to recognise that legend with a Victoria Cross. A failure not so much because of Simpson, but because of his donkey. A donkey very much like this one.
You don't know where.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Simpson and his donkey have been honoured with statues paintings, commemorative stamps, coins, and even, a little misguidedly perhaps, this life-size replica made of satay sauce. After the war, though, Simpson's donkey was demobbed back to Australia, where he lived the high life, trading off his celebrity, even having an affair with Phar Lap. It was the jazz era, and anything went, as Cole Porter almost put it. But an investigation here at the Australian War Museum revealed a dark side to Australia's favourite four-legged war hero. Turkish soldiers reported being summarily executed by Simpson's donkey, and an eyewitness claims to have been pushed off a cliff and killed.
I was standing there minding my own businesses when this small horse comes up to me and offers me cigarette. I thought, sure, why not? I smoke a hookah pipe occasionally. How much worse could this be for my lungs? And I took one. And then, as I'm lighting it up, he pushes me off the cliff with his hoof.
And you died?
Instantly.
Simpson and his donkey were denied a Victoria Cross. But why? History is full of flawed heroes. Hermann Goering received the German Cross, Nazi Germany's greatest wartime honour, despite not being a very nice person. Vlad the Impaler murdered thousands of his own people, yet appears to be wearing some sort of medal on his hat. And Australia's own Barnaby Joyce, who served this country valiantly for 8 years, or maybe 5 in the Army Reserve, received a Champion of Industry award of $40,000 from Gina Reinhardt, despite, or perhaps because of, his unfitness for office and inability to function as a rational human being. Perhaps, like how everybody now reckons John Howard was a good Prime Minister, we may one day look at Simpson's donkey more sympathetically and reckon he really wasn't quite so awful compared with the appalling behaviour of donkeys in the future. Until then, though, that won't be a thing now.
Well, not coming up because you can't ask that is on in a minute.
Zoos under fire for refusing to let employees work from home. And Shane warns gin company switching to production of hand sanitizer a real testament to the quality of the gin.
And finally, can I just say that at some point this will all be over. The pandemic will have passed, our bushfire-ravaged countryside will have grown anew, and there'll be enough toilet paper for every man, woman and child to go to the toilet for eternity. And we can look up to the skies and give thanks, or, as in the case of NASA, see that 3 asteroids are hurtling towards the Earth. The toilet paper is certainly going to come in handy. Goodbye.
Die, baby.